Can a hive swarm in September? Or I just tested for mites using the alcohol method. There wasn't a single mite. What could I have done wrong? What if I just add sugar on the hive during winter? Or do you run green drone frame in the winter? Hey everybody, David Burns, good to be with you today. And today I've pulled over 20 comments, questions from my YouTube channel that I'm going to answer today. And remember, when I answer these questions, it is good for all of us because we all learn something, even though we may not be the ones answering the question, or maybe it's not the question we need right now. Let's jump right into it. Bobblehead David is with us today. I don't know what happened to his subscribe sign, but he's not doing his job today. But if you're enjoying my videos, please subscribe. Just tested for mites using the alcohol method. There wasn't a single mite. What could have gone wrong? A few things to check. It could be that you have a fantastic hive and they don't have mites, and you should count your blessings and be happy. Or it could be that you sampled bees from the wrong spot in the hive. That means that you may have pulled bees from around the honey super frames up in there. Mites are going to hang out around the brood area because that's where mites reproduce in the cap cells of the pupating bee. And so anytime you do a mite test, be sure to pull bees, hopefully nurse bees, around from the brood nest area, being careful not to capture your queen because you would kill your queen in an alcohol wash. So that's one thing that could have gone wrong. Another thing that could have gone wrong is perhaps the alcohol wash wasn't sloshed around enough, or maybe rinse it a couple more times to see. If you've done those things and you did that correctly, got them from the brood nest area, sloshed them around enough, and you didn't see any mites, wow, let's just consider that very lucky. Hi David, I really enjoy your videos. I watched all of them. I also enjoy the 7 courses I completed. Thanks for all you do. Have a question for you. If I have 2 colonies that are showing signs of swarming, what do you think about swapping the queens with each other in these 2 colonies with a slow release method to stop the colonies from swarming? Marshall from England. Good question, Marshall. Never tried that before, and I would have to give that a little bit more thought, but right off the top of my head, it may not work very well because once one of those queens, or the queens, emerge and start doing what they normally would do, your hives are wanting to swarm probably for the same reason, even though they may have a new mom in the house. If they're congested, for example, and you take the queen out and give them a new one, especially in a cage like that, in 7 days, when the new queen emerges, still going to be congested. She wants to lay, there's no room, so on. So, not going to say I know 100% if that would work or not, but right now that would not be a method that I would use to control swarming. Can a hive swarm in September? They can and they do. Oh, there goes one now. No, not really, but it could be that easy. Sometimes a fall nectar flow, and fall is in 4 days at the filming of this video. A fall nectar flow stimulates the bees to think, hey, we got a lot of nectar coming in, time to reproduce and make a new hive. And so half of the hive leaves with the old queen to form a new hive. That can happen in September, though the percentage is very low compared to spring. Another comment, great video, David. Question, I have access to tons of 51% beeswax candle stubs. Can I use those to melt and add to plastic foundation? I don't know the answer to that, but let me tell you what I would do. I would not want to use it because that means 49% of that wax is a foreign substance that maybe I don't know what it is. Could be like some kind of petroleum-based paraffin or something. I would rather have 100% pure beeswax in my colony. Another question, we have been feeding our bees 1-to-1 sugar because of the dearth. Can we harvest honey from those supers? Good question. You know, a lot of people speculate that even though bees gather sugar water, they still invert it into honey using their own enzymes in the process of making honey. The origin of that nectar came from your sugar that was diluted with water rather than the nectaries of flowers. So it's sort of your call. I would not sell it to customers that way, but it is not the most optimal way to call something honey. Honey needs to have pollen in it from flowers, and so it really isn't honey. So I would caution you to pursue that. It would be fine for the bees to consume it again if they make honey out of it, but certainly not sell it, and marginal if you would want to eat it and under the impression that it's pure honey. Let's go to another one. I've been watching as many beekeeping videos as I can. I accidentally killed my queen bee. I'm not sure what to do. It's a small new hive with around 6 frames of brood. What should I do for my next step? You know what? Anytime you lose a queen, got to get a queen. Simple as that. It's an easy answer. If you have a problem with a queen that's failing, not laying good, or she disappeared, she's not in the hive, you need a queen in there. That's your next immediate step. Put a queen in there right away. Buy one that's already mated. What if I just add sugar on the hive when it's winter? I assume you mean, what if I just take a big 5-pound bag of granulated cane sugar, table sugar, dump it on the hive, good riddance to you. Perhaps that's what you mean. It's not the best thing for bees to consume just sugar. Honey has the pollen grains in it. That's why I always advocate adding additives to your sugar, such as Amino B, Honey Bee Healthy, protein substitute. I think that's a better way to do it. And if it's table sugar, it's kind of hard. Bees have to have moisture to kind of break that down where they can actually consume it. Do you run green drone frame in the winter? Yes and no. Yes, because I'm lazy, and no, when I'm not lazy. If I like to get motivated, I'll pull the green drone comb out. But if I forget to leave it in, the bees fill it up with usually honey late in the year, and it's honey frame in the early part of the spring. However, you will get early drones, which really isn't a problem, but that means you're going to have early mites if you can't get in there and work that green drone comb. All right, what do you recommend for a hive that has lots of bees, but not enough honey to get through the winter? I'm in Michigan. Oh, I recommend exactly what I've done for years. If they don't have enough honey, the old paradigm was to add 2-to-1 sugar water to build up more honey in the hive for winter, but that never worked for me, so I always feed them my Winter Be Kind boards. So you can make your own candy boards and feed candy boards with my additives in it. Feed that to the bees during the winter from the top, and that's usually the best way to get bees fed through the winter. Why aren't you using medical nitrile gloves, David? They are much nicer than the big bags you have on. A lot of people think that I wear one type of glove. I want to tell you the 3 types of gloves that I wear. Number 1, no gloves at all. Usually when I'm not filming, I don't wear gloves. But when I'm filming, I wear gloves because I have to go a little faster. I have to be a little more clumsier to get the video made and all that. So when I wear gloves that I'm filming, I usually wear the big, the big bag gloves were the big blue ones, just so they're sting proof for me. Now I do wear nitrile gloves a lot of times, and that's only because I don't like having to clean my hands of all the propolis on my hands after I'm done. I have to get the alcohol wash, scrape my hands forever to get the propolis off. So a lot of times I do wear nitrile gloves. I do know they're not sting proof. Bees can easily sting through them. So don't think that I'm just wearing the same kind of gloves every time I go out in the field just because you see one video where I'm gloveless, another video with the blue ones, the yellow ones, the pink ones, and all that. Sometimes it's just what's handy and what mode of operation I'm under. Hey David, I'm a first-year beekeeper. Good for you. Thanks for all the great information. You talked about robber bees. How do you tell the difference between robber bees and your own bees? Robber bees and your own bees. I get it. I understand the question. The best answer is you will know. You will know. Your bees are going in and out. Sometimes they're doing play flights. Sometimes there's a lot of them doing weird things at the entrance. I get that. Robber bees are all over the hive. Front, side, back, fighting at the front. It looks like a war. So you'll know it for sure. Hey David, you mentioned at the start that you calibrated your refractometer. You later say they come calibrated. Plus in your other video, you say not to mess with the calibration. So why did you need to calibrate the refractometer this time? You know what? I did it for fun just to see how close it was, and it was close. So I really don't need to calibrate my refractometers. They're not off hardly anything at all. And so I just wanted to show people that if you do need to calibrate them, like the little rubber cap came off and it got bumped or something, you might want to check it. If a year goes by or a couple of years, you know, they're sitting outside in humidity or something, I don't know. It just might be good to calibrate it or check it and make sure it's good. That's why I do that sometimes. As to winter feed, could you not consider a large entrance, oh, wait a minute. Could you not consider a larger entrance feeder? They work well and can be sheltered. No, a winter feeder, you can't put winter feeder on the entrance because the bees aren't, it's cold where I live and the bees aren't going to go out to an entrance feeder. That means they're going to have to go a few inches outside the hive to that entrance feeder that's on the external part of the hive. Colder out there, they're not going to break closer to do that. So I feed either my Burns feeder, winter bee kinds, they're always right against the top of the cluster. And entrance feeders in the fall can be inducing robbing. I want to start this, but for my home, I can buy the bee house online. But my question is, how do I get bees in? Do I kidnap a queen and hope that the rest of the colony will follow? I'm interested with zero information. Got to watch my video on how to get started in beekeeping. But good question. I've had people buy queens off of me and put one queen in a hive and thinking that's how you start a hive. Hey, I'm not putting anybody down for that. You admit you have zero information. And so here's the deal. You got to start with 10,000 bees and a queen. So you got to buy a package of bees, and that's been going on for well over 100 years in America, where southern states and western states produce early packages or nucleuses, and people buy those and put them in the hive that you buy. That's a good question. When my hive comes out of winter strong, they would swarm. They swarm so early that I have to split them in May, too early for Massachusetts, when there are still cold snaps. I've tried to add super, it doesn't work. How do you prevent your strong hives from swarming other than splitting them? I don't. There are ways you can do it. You could try to put a screen, a queen excluder above the screen bottom board and hold the queen in. That's not a guaranteed way, but you know, there's some methods you could use, but I have to just face it that I've got to make those early splits. And glad I got a lot of bees. That's a good problem to have coming out of winter with so many bees, you have to make a split. When you introduce the bee package to the hive, would it be beneficial to install a queen excluder on the base under the brood box? That way there's no way for the queen to leave the hive. Then in 10 days you can take it out. That way you won't lose the swarm. Thanks for your knowledge. I always teach that. I've made videos on that here on YouTube. On my online courses, my beginner's course, I talk about how packages installed can abscond, which means they all leave, different from swarming. And so you want to put that queen excluder on top of your bottom board under your first brood box. Hold the queen in so she doesn't leave. That's certainly advisable. Where did you find the dollhouse size supers? Over here. My friend at Castle Hives, Brian, actually 3D prints these. And I'll leave a link right here to his webpage, and you can go there and get one of these. And they're more than just one piece. There's all the different pieces. There's the inner cover, here's the queen excluder, and here's a tiny little frame. You can look for the queen, but that's a honey super. But yeah, they're all pieces are so cool, aren't they? And so there you go. That's how you get them. You removed the super and put it on the cart. How did you get those bees that were in that super back into the hive before closing it up? I didn't show you that? All right, put the video here. Yeah, so I just took a frame out of the green super and shook the bee. Yeah, I shook the bees off, just shook them off. I'm not going to damage any brood doing that radical shaking because it's all honey. Just getting the bees back into their hive. Good question. Thought I put that in the video, but maybe I edited that out to make it shorter. David, have you ever experimented with getting winter brood born in early fall building out comb? What? I invented that. That's all I do. That's all I talk about on my channel. You got to feed your bees now 1-to-1 sugar water with additives so that the bees will raise more bees of winter physiology and they live 6 to 8 months getting through the winter. Absolutely, I do that. What do you think is better, communal feeding or individual box feeding? Individual box feeding all day long. Yeah, I made a video showing you sometimes that I do community or communal feeding, but I don't prefer that. I only do it in rare circumstances where there's an issue. Like one time we had a wedding here and I didn't want all my bees all over the flowers of the people in the wedding. So I had to give the bees something to go to stay off of people. I do it in times like that. This year I've done it once to make a video about it, and sometimes I do it to get bees to go there before I inspect hives, because that way they don't rob the hives I'm looking at. It is a little risky. Some states don't allow it because it can transfer diseases if bees die in the water and release a bunch of spores, blah, blah, blah. So it's not the preferred way. That's why I invented the Burns feeding system that goes on top of a hive. You can feed the individual colony. Plus, when you community feed, only the strong colonies with a lot of foragers are actually going to take advantage of that. Your weaker colonies aren't, so it doesn't help your weak colonies out. So that is a very good question. All right. Let's continue on. We're just hammering through these, right? Yeah, I'm pumped and excited. By the way, if you're enjoying these questions and answer time, be sure and subscribe. Bobblehead David really wants you to subscribe. Can't get him to say yes. He likes to say no, but I want you to subscribe. Notice you still had a green drone comb in the frame in the hive. Do you leave those? Oh, already answered that one. New beak here. I have a question on the first hive. Would you harvest and take off that super for winter since both of the deeps are full of resources, or let them have it for winter? Good question. Question is, keep the super on top for winter, take it off and harvest it. You can do either. It's your preference. However, you do, depending on where you live, it doesn't say, it's going to get cold. You need to keep those bees fed. So if you don't have a candy board on top, like the winter bee kind, I'd leave that super on. For insurance purposes, be sure and take that queen excluder off. What is bigger of the queen than a worker? Oh, that's a good question. There are differences all the way around. Obviously, the abdomen is much bigger to hold all of the ovaries, ovarils, the eggs when she starts laying and getting more filled up with eggs. So mainly the abdomen is what we're looking for to identify that definitely is a queen and that is larger. But there are differences other than size, of course, that helps us identify that queen. Good question. David, how long do you feed the bees in the fall? I feed bees in the fall as long as I can get away with it. I feed them in the fall until it gets below 50 degrees Fahrenheit in the daytime, and that's about when bees don't take 1-to-1 sugar water with my additives from the top anymore. That's when I drop on the winter bee kinds. Or I can wait usually a little bit of time if I fed them well in the fall. I can wait a few weeks before I drop on the winter bee kinds. So, and let's give you an example. All right. So let's say 15th of November, my temperatures drop below 50 for high temperatures Fahrenheit during the day. I can wait another month before I drop winter bee kinds on there because I fed them so much they got plenty of resources on board, but that is going to be depleted after 3 or 4 weeks of a lot of bees in there. So I do like to put the winter bee kinds on by late December, early January for extra insurance. Good question. What about organic molasses? Is it okay to feed bees? No, it's not. Any kind of dark sugar like that is not good for bees. Do not feed it to bees, please. I want to tell you guys I love you and I appreciate you asking me questions, but here's the deal. You can see for yourself that I get so many questions because I have over 500 or 600 videos of people watching, asking questions on each video, and that I have 126,000 subscribers, which I appreciate all of you so much. But if 0.5% of you asked me a question or wanted to talk to me or email me a day, 0.5% would be 600 questions a day. And obviously, even me and Bobblehead David, 2 of us can't get that done. So I take moments like this to try to answer some here and there. But if you are interested in being more educated in your beekeeping endeavors, do consider taking one of my classes. It may cut down on your questions. A lot of these questions were very basic and covered in my online basic beekeeping courses. It might help you a lot to take a course And that way you'll have a greater knowledge when you do start beekeeping, if you're starting next spring, or if you already got the hive running. You learned a lot this year without taking a class, but think what a class would do for you now with what you've seen in the hive. Now you can take a class and go, oh, that's what I did right. Or, oh, that's what I did wrong. I won't make that mistake again. So consider taking an online course. I really appreciate you guys doing that. Also, live stream every Thursday night. I'm hanging out just like this with you guys live, where you can ask these questions of me. Really appreciate that. Being a part of the live stream, we call it the Beak Squad. All of us getting together as friends of beekeeping and talking and sharing together. So that's coming up this Thursday night. I'll be answering questions again, don't forget. Is YouTube bad for beekeeping? Is that a legitimate question? There are some people that have no basic knowledge of beekeeping other than what they've learned on YouTube. Is that good for beekeeping or bad? Well, I made a video on that answering the question. Check it out right here. Is getting all your information for beekeeping off of YouTube good or bad? I'll see you over there.